Welcome everybody. My name is Yogesh Kumar. I'm basically leading the quality team from AppStore side, working on the Folio project. I've been with the company about a year and a half now, working with a lot of our great workers slash our team members that have been working in the contract to EPAM team. Excellent team, doing great job. So today's session is going to be very technical, but I wanted to start out with how you can use this session and how we can help improve Folio's automation and end-to-end testing day-to-day process that we use for testing our software. Just to give you some background information, we have significantly increased our automation since I joined. We were roughly about approximately 10 to 15% automated based for our manual tests last year around this time of the year. We did a great investment into improving our framework, our parallelization system, and also using technology like Cypress and all with the help of our interactors that we have in the software from Stripe's team and other volunteers across the globe that we increased close to now 2,500, 2,600 test cases that we run on regular basis. On a nightly basis, we run about 1,200 tests, and on a weekend, kind of a weekly, which we call an extended test, we run about 1,300 more tests. So 2,500 tests on a regular week-to-week basis. So 2 times in a sprint that gets run. As you can see some stats here, Poppy and Orchid, we increased significant in Poppy. In Casnelia, we went down a little bit, and I'll talk about that a little bit. And Ransom, we're going to land even a little bit further down. The main reason for that is our manual team is writing tests way faster than automation can keep up. And as you know, automation takes time. Also requires stable UI aspects, and we are constantly chasing a moving target, and because of that, we can't keep up with the automation there. So it'd be interesting, from this conference, if we can get some volunteers, etc., to join, help us automate more of our tests. As you all may know or may not know, we have all of our tests. Manual QA teams write into TestRail. TestRail is a test management tool that we use. It describes all your prerequisites for the test, what steps it goes through, etc. And then automation team takes those test cases as an example and tries to automate all that steps. And Ostap, who's online, remotely, he's going to present today how to automate tests. But I just want to leave it at that we have a Slack channel called End-to-End Test Automation Volunteers. If you are interested, please join that Slack channel or ping me. I'll help you, getting accumulated with this test automation framework. Probably give you a lot of the demos that we have, teaching exercises, etc. We have to get you familiar with it. And then you can be a contributor to the community and into these test suites. So stop, are you ready? Can you hear me?
Yes, hello everyone, I'm ready, but could you please allow me sharing the screen? You should stop your sharing.
Yeah, let me do that. All right, go ahead, start sharing.
Yeah, I can start sharing. I can share, yeah. Can you see my screen, right?
Yeah, I can see your screen. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, so hello everyone. What I'm gonna demo today to present you, I'm gonna show you our test automation framework that we use, the general structure, then page object in combination with interactors, and finally test reporting, example of a test case, and how do we troubleshoot failed tests. So I will start from test automation framework. So automation framework is basically a set of different tools, libraries, techniques, agreements, patterns, conventions everything that allows us to write tests in the same way using the one approach. And also some libraries that allow us to execute tests on different environments, on different browsers if needed. Some tools that allows us to provide feedback from our test, some reporter that allows us to analyze test run results, etc. On this chart, you can see some, let's say, standard schema or standard structure of almost every test automation framework. So it consists of 4 different levels or layers. On the bottom of this structure, we have core layer, and this is basically the list of all libraries and tools that we use in a particular testing for a particular test application. In our case, we use Cypress for UI, web UI interactions, Axios for API requests and API tests. Mocha is a test runner. Allure is test reporter. Chai, that's a library for asserting actual results, comparing them with expected. Interactors, it's our Folio library that it provides kind of a wrapper for common web elements. I will show it a little bit later. Some configurations, etc. So basically, this is the set of libraries and tools, and you can reuse this layer or this level in any test framework you want, almost in every test framework. On the next level, we have domain, a domain or business layer. It's something related to the particular application, to the application under the test. In our case, we have UI test and we use some APIs as a precondition, so I will show both. In this layer, we keep page objects in API wrappers. Again, I will display it a little bit later. I will show it, explain a little bit later. In general, it's a wrapper for existing UI pages and API endpoints. On the next level, we have some test data, test files, test data, text fixtures, everything that helps us to create a test, to execute a test. And the final layer is a test layer. Here we keep our UI test and API test. You can have database test, whatever. And in this layer, we use everything that was created in the previous layers. Okay, so now let's switch, try to analyze, to understand page object and API wrappers. So what is page object model? Page object is a kind of abstraction layer between our automation code and the application interface, between UI and our code. So page object model assume that we create some kind of page objects. It can be Java class or JavaScript file, doesn't matter. And within this file, we keep some web elements that allows us to interact with the real UI page, and some functions, methods where we implement this interaction. So basically, page object model allows us to interact as a real user would do with the application using some specific tools. And let's switch to some example that should be easier to understand. So I'm gonna show you an example with check-in page. On this page, so this application, check-in application, allows us to check in an item. And the main interface, if you want to perform the main action check-in, we should enter our barcode of our item we want to check in, and press enter. So basically that's it. And in order to optimize this flow, we should create a page object. In my case, I named this like check-in page, JavaScript file. And here I have some fields, item barcode field, enter button field. This is a locator, something that allows Cypress to identify web element on a page. And you can see on the bottom, the function, enter item barcode. This function, using Cypress, first finds the barcode input, then type item barcode, and then clicks enter button. So this function interacts, the actions of a real user. So other words, it's just abstraction level that connects JavaScript or automation code with a UI, real UI we have. And the next part I want to raise is interactors. So interactors, it's also the second level of abstraction. It's something that we use only here in Folio, and it's a part of page object. So interactors, it's a wrapper over the commonly used web elements and components. So in our application, we have many web components like checkbox, button, drop down, some module, some table, whatever. Everything is a web component. And we implemented wrappers over those web elements. And those wrappers just encapsulate the action that a real user can perform with some web element. So let's switch to example. Here we have some different pages. On page, we can have some checkbox, inputs, drop-downs, buttons, some confirmation model dialog, list tables, whatever. All those are web components. They are created, and all those web components are reused across the whole of our application. And for testing purpose, we created interactors. It's kind of wrappers for those web components that we use only in testing. Wrappers, in combination with Cypress, they allow us to interact with those web components, those elements. And let's switch to the example of text field interactor. So text field is just a simple input. It looks complicated, but overall, we just have simple text field input. We call it text field interactor. We have some selector. It's a way how to find these text fields in our application. We have some filters, because on some page you may have many different text fields. For instance, for login page, we have username and password. Both are text field, and we need somehow to provide unique identifier for every text field. So for those purposes, we use filters, and on the right you can see actions. So with text field, we can perform like two major actions, I would say. We can fill in some text inside the text field and clear the text field if there is some text. So you can see I highlighted those two actions. So basically that's it. It's the second level of abstraction. And now let's switch to our page object. So I updated my page object, the same check-in page on the left. We can see the same input for barcode, enter button, and on the right, we can see check-in page. And now I a little bit updated this page object. And now I use interactor. So my item barcode field now is text field and some unique identifier for this text field. My enter button now is a type of button with some unique identifier. And if we look into the method, into the function enter item barcode, we see quite similar logic. I have item barcode field interactor, and I can use fill in function to provide this, like to fill in barcode into the UI, and then click enter button. So from technical part, it's not something difficult or complicated, but from logical, it's more clear to understand. If anyone else would need to support this page, to support the test, maintain the test, and for instance, somebody would need to update this page. You just have to find the page, you see, okay, this is an input barcode text field. This is an enter button. They are self-explanatory. It's easy to understand. Where should you fix something? Where should you update if needed? So, yeah. And what else? Yeah, now let's switch to the real example. So I have this check-in test case. This is a real test case we have in the test trail. So within this test case, I need to, first, I have to create some precondition. I need to create a user, test user with limited set of permissions.
Yeah, I was trying to think. Hold on one second. Let me see if I can make it a little bit bigger. Or can you make it bigger from your side?
Like this, would it be okay?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay.
Yeah, that's better for sure. Yeah.
So I have a test, basic check-in. All I need to do within this test to verify that the user can perform check-in of an item. So as a precondition, I need to create a user with limited set of permissions. Then I have to create an item, check it out that item. So later I can check in it. And I need some service points, so it's not important for our case. Then we have some steps. open the check-in application, enter item barcode, click on enter button, and there should be some actions, like should be some expected some results. We should check in this item, and then we have like next step. So let's switch to the test. I'm going to show you the real test in our framework.
Actually, Stop, can you go back for a second? I just want to comment for people who may have never seen this industrial. This is our example of our test management system that I was talking about. This is a test trail is a product out there that we use. So all our manual QA testers write when a new functionality, a new feature comes as part of our definition of done. We are required to write a test case into this tool, and which explains all the steps that they will take to manually execute this. So, as you may have seen, if you participated ever in Bugfest, some of the volunteers actually take some of these tests and run them during the Bugfest manually themselves. So, but we're looking to keep automating this. And when I was talking about original numbers, we have a backlog of about 4,000 test cases that are manual right now that we run pretty much throughout the release process. So for ransom, we have about 4,200 test cases as total manual, and 2,500 test cases that are all automated. So you can see the scope is pretty large. We're a small team, but actively working on this scope and automating it, as much as possibly we can, and that's why we do a lot of the Bugfest volunteer time. Take community's help, run through our testing, and then go through our testing process. That's actually. Sorry, go ahead, Gustav. Let's dig into or dive into the test code.
Yep, sure. So simple test, we have some preconditions that should be executed before the test, and then we have test step. And now let's look into the implementation of this test. So as I said,
we can make this a little bit bigger too.
Yeah, I'm trying, to be honest, not sure if it's possible.
Because there's a console, right? Yeah. I don't know if it's Zoom would allow me.
It's called just control and scroll and scroll.
Control scroll, I guess.
Yeah, I'm trying to do that control scroll, but it doesn't work. Okay,
At the Zoom at the bottom also there's a way, right?
Yeah, I am trying to find it. Just a second.
Plus is the other.
Yeah, Control Shift Plus. Anything?
Yep, I tried that. Oh, Control, yes.
Shift Control
Plus. Yeah, now it works.
Yeah, there you go. That's good.
Okay, that's better.
Yeah, much better.
Okay, so my test, check-in test. So first of all, I have to create some preconditions. As I said, the test is simple. You just have to type item barcode and then click enter and verify that it was checked in. But before that, we need to create this test item. We need to create a test user, and we need to check out this item to that user. And all that is done using API requests as a precondition. So it's quite complicated logic. For instance, to create test item, we need to perform approximately 20 or 25 API requests. We need to create service point, default location. We need to get some loan types, material types, whatever. And finally, we have to create an instance. Then inside the instance, we have to create holdings and finally item. So it's quite complicated. And the point is everything is done using API request. So I have these few preconditions. And this precondition should be done before the test. So we can see this function before it's test hook. So once preconditions are done, we can switch to our test. And now you can see the test. So first of all, I have to log in with my test user. This user I just create for a test with limited set of permissions. Then I have to open check-in application. And then you can see enter item barcode. So this part of code executes these two steps. Enter item barcode and click enter. You see? And this is the page object I already described, I already showed. So this is the page object I created, and I encapsulated all that logic inside that page object. And now on the test level, you can see some human readable, how to say, functions, and they are self-exploratory. So in this place, I am entering item barcode. Then I have to check results in the role. Maybe it's not self-explanatory, so now I have to verify that after entering item, after check-in item, I see the proper result. I see the role where everything is like, but I can see the result of the check-in operation. Now let's see what we have. Next step is open action menu, select law and details, some verifying here, and then navigate back to check-in application. And in my code, you see open check action, open action menu option, open law and details, then open check-in applications. That means navigate back to check-in application. Then what else we have? In the next step, we have to verify. We have to do the same actions. Open action menu, select item details, verify everything there, navigate back. Open action menu, open pattern details, verify everything inside and navigate back. And in my test, I have this open pattern details, open check-in application, open item, open check-in application. That means go back to check-in application. So that's the point. So we try, in our approach, we try to implement automated test so that that follow all steps in manual test case. It's not always possible, but we try to do it as much as possible. And again, as I said,
Sorry, stop. Can you go back to the prerequisite part? I want to explain something.
This one?
Yeah, go to the before block. Yeah, so one thing you may notice is that every test is trying to create its own user, etc. So these tests are very independent. They're self-contained, so that we can run them in any environment. That's the main reason. We don't really rely on what data is in the system, and utilize that data, with the exception of settings data. So the app comes with some sort of reference data. We do use some drop down values and things from the settings side, but we create our own users, or we set up our own permissions, etc. on the fly, and that's why you see a lot of these prerequisites in the test cases. There's a bunch of these ones, but one of these examples, I just wanted to let you know, and that happens. Majority of the cases right now is a mix of UI and API level. We're trying to convert mostly into API now, so that tests can become faster. But we used to actually do both ways, through the UI first and then through the API. But now it's much better with the API. It's just prerequisite gets quickly covered, and then we just go through the test iteration. And Cypress has these 3 blocks. Typically, you see before, after, and it. It is where all the test cases are. Before is run before the Cypress gets kicked off. That's all your preconditions, and after is your typically cleanups and things mentioned in the after block.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry, go ahead. Stop.
Yeah, so that's a standard structure of a test. In after block, we clear everything we created, and we also do that using API. And here you can see that for this particular test, I have to delete test item, holding instance, then delete the user, delete the location, and delete the service point. Yeah, and the point of just want to highlight that in this test, I am using page object with API request. Yeah, and you can see how easy to maintain the test if you have a page object. So using this page object, you create this function that are self-explanatory, and this function should be quite similar to the steps that we have in test trail. And just reading the steps, it makes you it helps you to understand what is going on here, and like every step of the test. Yeah, and what else should I want to?
Are you covering tags? Can we cover quickly tagline too? That's very important.
Okay, this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so every test has its tags, set of tags. All our regression suite consists of 3 big group of tests: smoke test, critical path, and extended path. So the most important is smoke. So for every test, we should add appropriate tag. If it is smoke, critical, and extended. Then we should add from what team. We have a dev team, and every dev team is responsible for some particular functionality. So here we add a tag for the team. System is some internal tag for our automation team, and shift left, this is the new tag. So we have a new shift left, let's say, quality gate pipeline. And within that pipeline, we execute our automation test every 3 hours. And so we have a huge automation suite. Right now, regression suite is approximately 2,050 test cases, and it's not possible to run all of them. That's why we selected the most critical test cases to cover the most critical functionality, and we execute this functionality every 3 hours, as I said. So we added this specific tag, shift left. That means that this is a very critical test case, and it should be, it's a part of quality gate pipeline.
Yeah, let me explain that a little bit more. So right now, when manual team writes test cases, they work with POs and really determine whether it's a critical test or it's like a smoke level that we want to run, pretty much every time that any changes occur or anything like that, or it's like an extended path, so it converts configuration, etc. So when we go to our test trail system, we define these tags with the help of product owners for that functionality, etc. So if you were to pick up a new test and then want to develop, most likely you'll get the test group like what Ostap is highlighting. It will be already grouped into one category. So tag in Cypress allows you to run only those specific groups. It's kind of a grouping of tests, and that's what we have. One thing we started earlier this year is we wanted, to on our daily testing process, on our daily development process, we didn't want any regressions. We wanted to catch regressions early, as soon as a developer PR is ready or PR has been gone through the build process, etc. So we created this quality gate, which we're working on actively now to even enhance that further. But our short-term quality gate is we run our build process at least 4 to 5 times a day. As part of that, we run some set of tests that are, pretty much smoke tests, around 200, 250, that really says, okay, is it going to break any functionality, in these test cases? So it tests pretty much every example of the web components that are out there, plus and certain amount of streams, etc. So we're going to further enhance that to get to we're looking to do, more or less as if there's a change in acquisition app, run only acquisition specific functionality. We're not there yet, but that's what we're working on towards right now. Sure, go ahead, question.
But one problem I see with this approach is that you often have interdependent apps, and for example, the user and the permissions app are different apps. And if you were to only run tests for the user's app, but the user permissions you created are now faulty,
right,
you will not see it. This is,
that's why we haven't done that yet, because our application with our new architecture with Eureka, we're trying to break application our big monolith dependency of modules into a smaller application chunks. Once we go there, it'd be a lot easier. So exactly what you just said, that's our problem right now. It's very hard to identify what exact task to run because the modules are dependent on each other. I've seen a module dependency chart one time, which was like 20 modules to do just a user permission in interdependencies like that type. So we're gonna get there eventually, but right now our smoke test that we're running in this quality gate pipeline is pretty much cover all tasks, but we're time-based right now. Because we do not, like we said, like I said, we run 4 to 5 times a day. There's only sufficient time amount that you can really run. We try to keep it under 2 hours for these test cases. So we have selected highly critical, smoke tests that we can run to at least narrow down which PR is causing regressions. Sorry, go ahead, Gustav. What is next?
Yep, the next part is the reporting. So in our system, in our framework, we have two reports. It's a Allure report and a report portal. I'm going to show you a Allure report. It's the example of quality gates pipeline. So we have 214 test cases, and you can see like it's just an example. So we can see the list of features or tests that were executed. We can see pass rate. We can see some trend, and if needed, we can analyze every test for the reason of failure. And this is this next, let's say, topic. So I just wanted to show you the report. And the second point is I want to show you an example. How do we troubleshoot? How do we analyze the failure test? So I run.
Before we go there, let's go back to this for a second. Yeah, as you can see, it's fairly, staying a very little red at the bottom. That means very less failures throughout, every day. But if you can see past week or so, we've been having some changes. Somebody made changes to Interactor, not Zach. Somebody made a change to Interactors, which broke some of the tests. So we are now catching those changes, on regular basis. But it used to be like months, 2 months later, we'll find out, oh, somebody made a change somewhere. And, we didn't run our test and we were out of the water for like months, sometimes, trying to fix it and trying to figure out who made a change. So now the change window has become quite a bit narrower versus what it was, without this quality gate pipeline that we have. So it's working excellent, it's working really well, catching all those things and letting developers know that, hey, you get, with your change, either you need to look into it or we need to update our test because this is a change that's really intended.
Yeah, so question, when you have a test failure in a regression context, there's two possibilities, right? You actually broke the UI.
Exactly.
Or your test is too brittle and no longer represents the new UI.
Right.
What is the trend in terms of our Folio tests? Or is it, what's more often the case here?
It's a mix of both. I would say because Folio is still in development, there's a lot of moving, so brittle is more of the trend. I would say it's still a 50-50%. It's a pretty mix. But one thing good we have tried to do, or we're trying to do right now, which is actively working right now as well with some teams that we have done POCs with, we're actually telling the Folio developers itself, the front end developers, when they're making a change to the UI, change the test along with it. And that's helping. The reason that's helping is, they already know the change. So if they change a label X to Y, they immediately know and they just know where to go and fix it. So we're training them for that test, and we don't have to involve another team, another communication, and wait until the changes are in, etc. to fix it. So that's what we're trying to get to right now.
This has also been huge on I work sort of on the strengths framework, which sits at the UI level, but below individual applications. And this kind of stuff is huge for us because you will often be making changes that don't necessarily have an impact on the end user, right? It's a non-functional change. We change the way we're connecting to the backend. We change the way we're handling authentication. You don't see that in the user interface. You just think you're using a password to go do something. But what's happening behind the scenes changes, and we think, all right, we've done this in a smooth way because we're able to test across the board and end to end. We are doing a much better job catching those kinds of bugs that maybe would have crept out before because they don't have some obvious user impact, but they still change the behavior that we didn't realize was important. And so,
Exactly.
this has made a really big difference.
Yeah, it's kind of the layering process, to get there. And eventually, what we want to do there is we won't even allow a PR someday when we're ready. We won't even allow a PR if it broke a test. Either you're gonna, put the test and the PR together along with the fix, or the PR is gonna be reverted until you figure out a solution for it. Wow. Baby steps.
And at some point, we'll have developers who do not create bugs.
Yeah. All right, go ahead, stop. Sorry.
Yeah, so the last thing I want to show you is the case when we have a broken test for some reason, and I did it on purpose just to show you how it works. How do we do that? So I run this one check-in by check-in test in the pipeline. I already did it to save you time. Okay, and this one, yeah. And for instance, I'm getting this run. I can open a report and I see my test failed. So first of all, what can I say? I have some error message. And from this message, this is the message from interactors, by the way. And I can see that interactors didn't find a button, check in, and they said, did you mean one of the following? So interactors this library interactor tried to find check-in button, but instead it found the following, this check-in inventory. And you can see that I have, like, in my case, I am looking for the button with check-in with capital I. But on the UI, we have check-in. So I can scroll down. Here you can see all the steps that were executed during the test. And on the bottom, I have a screenshot. I can see where exactly my test failed. And on the screenshot, I see that, yeah, that really should be check-in and I should be a small I, not capital one. So what should I do? If just an example, right? If it was some functional change, it was the name of application was check-in from capital I and somebody changed it. So if I have to communicate with dev team, with POs and figure out if it's expected change. And if yes, then I just have to open my test. I have to find this method, open check-in application, and I have to open page object. And with my page object, I have to modify the test and put capital I. And that's it. So that is an example. So if we have any functional change related to some updated interactors, some updated UI, it's very easy to maintain when you have page object and when you have interactors. That's how we do. And I believe that's it.
Okay. I think we're ahead of schedule, so I'll take any questions. Anything else you have presenting, Ostap, or are you done presentation?
No, I don't have anything else.
Okay, so we'll just take questions. Please feel free, and let me check the chat as well.
Yogesh, you mentioned you have a small team doing this now. How big is the team?
So for automation team of about 8 people, and manual team is about 10 people. But time to time, like last year, we did a big boost. AppSco spent quite a bit of money to boost us to do a certain amount of automation. So we hired EPAM team. I think it was 12 developers that we developed about 2,000 overall engagement. I think 1,800 tests came out of that that we developed and added to the speed. So time to time, we do kind of boost that way. But, the main thing is more volunteer we can get, to write this automation, we can keep up with it more.
I'm sorry.
No, just finish and I'll.
Yeah.
Just a quick follow-up. What are the types, what's the level of skill that you've found? What I'm wondering, is this an opportunity for subject experts in libraries to help play a role in development without needing to be developers?
Yes, definitely. I mean, there are tools out there. If we do find subject matter experts that can help us, with this, I could look into some of the tools that can actually produce code when you're actually doing things like, when you're manually walking through it, it's, producing code in the background. We don't have that technology yet, but I have previous experience with such technologies that can be done. Definitely. But right now, what we're trying to do is, really train people who have some sort of JavaScript knowledge or TypeScript knowledge. Cypress, if they are great, but they don't really need to know Cypress. Cypress is not that hard to know, but it really is JavaScript and TypeScript type of knowledge. Yeah.
And that's exactly where I wanted to go. And historically, it's been very difficult for developers to become productive in Folio. The learning curve is very steep. It's much easier, it's still hard, but it's much easier for someone to develop tests. Okay, and that's probably where many institutions can help with improving overall quality.
Yes.
By looking at the existing test cases, identifying those that have been marked for automation, and then developing tests so that they can be included in the overall cycle.
Yeah, since we have some time left, I want to show you a little bit of, this is kind of my spreadsheet that we kind of track. I want to show you kind of an idea of a backlog. So for example, if I were to take Snalia and Ransom, last 2 releases, look to how the backlog has increased to like 4,300 test cases now. Right, so it's not, what this means is we're about 2,000 tests behind from last 2 releases to automate. We definitely focus a lot more on smoke, so you can see smoke is a very small number, but we're not even able to keep up with smoke enough or critical path enough to get to put a big dent in this, because we have a huge backlog. We started automation very late versus Folio was in play for a long time, versus automation really kicked off last year or the beginning of last year a lot more. So we have a lot of regression to cover in our backlog. Right.
Do the current tests have enough of a standardized format to start doing autocode generation? Like we do have the split in the requirements and the steps. Are the requirements standardized enough to be able to create code from it? Basically, like the test user with following permissions, and then the library object where you can just say test user permission sets or something like this. So
we don't have it written that way, the requirements, but it's more like what I was talking about. The automation tool is if somebody, for example, let's say came up with a new page, right, new flow. You can easily, there are tools out there that you can plug into that page where, when a manual user is taking steps doing it, it can produce a code behind it in the same. So whatever you did, for example, you button clicked on one place and went to the next and dropped down, selected something else and submitted it, that whole flow will get recorded. And that is what this test case is all about, right? But we don't really have right now kind of, you can think of test definitions in advance to say this is the page is going to look like, so auto generate a test. That's not what I'm talking about. So
that was the question I was aiming for. So basically, would the possibility exist to get the manual test writers to give them like a standardized syntax to write the requirements, so you could easily copy paste stuff like test user column, and then the permissions with a standardized naming convention, and then you could just put this into a code generator and do it like this. Basically, could you get your the manual test writers to help you with writing the code for the tests by being specific in a way that's easy to copy paste from?
Yeah, so that's exactly what we're looking at right now. Basically, are the 10 manual testers that we have. We're actually trying to make them a journal QA, which is to really train them understanding the page object model and the Cypress code, etc. So rather than writing actual plain English steps, right, write some parts of the code that we can probably run through some sort of, I don't know, Perl or some language scripts that we can auto generate a test case from it. That's what we're looking into. But the main issue is our backlog. Our backlog is just darn huge. To get there, it's not easy. But the new ones, yes, we can definitely doing it. There's a program going on with EBM QA engineers, manual QA engineers, that we're trying to convert them into more journal QA right now. Our first set of batch, I think, is going to graduate end of November. That's the kind of the timeline we're looking at.
Idea with developers.
And developers should contribute towards it. Yes, exactly.
You have a question there?
Sorry, I should stand up.
So you were talking before about the frequency that the entire test suite and the various subsets are run. But what about manual? Like that bug just fixed with capitalizing the letter I.
Yeah.
There must be some way to just pick off that suite of tests, either in VS Code or somewhere else, just to test the things that you're actually writing.
Right.
What's that process?
So again, that bug, so let's say somebody made that change, right? If the change is not huge, it's like a minor, like that we already caught, it's only I thing, within the same day, at night, we run the test again.
But there's no way to just click it off and actually run it now, like, I think I wrote this test.
Yeah, so that happens too. So for example, during the development scrum teams, so somebody, developer will know during the scrum that they made a change.
Right.
There is a manual QA embedded in every scrum team right now, and that's what they're testing. So for example, if there was a change like that, they will immediately go there and test it. Either POs or QA will test it.
But the developer can also just test their own.
Yeah, they can. They do that anyways, but
Okay,
we
right.
still have QA that verifies it pretty much.
But are you able to run the end-to-end tests on your local system?
Yes,
Okay,
yes, absolutely.
with spreading out.
As long as you know, deployed it. So end-to-end basically,
You do have to deploy it from your VS Code for the change to apply it.
yeah, but people run on their rancher environments, people run on their local boxes, people run on the URL that, you know, the snapshot URL with, etc., which gets, snapshot gets built twice a day, so these type of things that almost every developer does. Sure.
I don't know how much overhead there is for constantly creating and deleting users and setting up the environment. Would it be efficient to start a test environment that has an advanced user, reader, et cetera?
It's a little time overhead, I understand what you're going through. The main problem occurs is we have so many environments that we want to test in. So for example, we have a bug fest type of environment earlier enough. Before even bug fest, we generate pretty much every sprint. So every 2 weeks, we generate one environment that brings all integration code together and run tests in. We run through snapshot every day. We then run through developer rancher environments. So it's easier for tests to be more self-contained. And that's why we have, used this user creation. It's just one simple example, but there's a lot more than user creation.
Right.
So just from a test philosophy point of view, that testing is double-edged in the sense of the more efficient you make things by reusing things because you're not constantly standing up and
Yeah.
data, a lot faster. But then you also have to worry about side effects, right?
Yeah.
Did you do something in test A that you thought you cleaned up, but you didn't completely clean up, and test C only runs because of test A.
Right.
So it's
False
sort of,
positives, there are too many.
right, so it's a balance, and as I said, this test suite takes 3 hours to run. No one wants to wait 3 hours to run a PR to fix a single character in a translation file. On the other hand, if you don't, you run that risk of I won't say pollution, but like that's sort of the dilemma is it's a trade-off, it's a balance. And so right now we're looking a lot at getting more tests out there and having them run less often. And then, maybe eventually we figure out how to run them faster. But right now,
I really imagine this. What I would love to see is we have a lot of changes to make that happen. But what I would love to see is a certain file change and certain PRs are pointing to XYZ files that they changed. Against XYZ files, I have some sort of database which identifies 5, 10, 20, 50 tests. I want to take those tests and be able to run them against those files and say, okay, build the application. These are the set of tests that basically covers these, page objects or the files itself, and run those tests. I mean, we're far away from it, but that's where eventually you want to get to. Right now, we're trying to build more and more tests is our focus. And if you're over, in my previous experience, where I had 85% automation, if we're at that level, we will get to the problems where we're just talking about. How many small tests we run, what exactly we run, how much granular can we get, etc. That depends on architecture, application, and a lot of other things, and how we code, what procedures we change, that sort of stuff.
Also, I do think the Folio project overall is falling to the big problem of having many end-to-end tests and not the relative number of unit tests on the other side, because most of those tests should also be unit tests, like you described the API call getting out of the back end on the front end, which would be a very quick check without any problems. But writing end-to-end tests is just so much easier because it's the business requirement test instead of the technical tests in there.
Well, so there's two answers to that. One is our unit tests are okay right now, but we need to increase our investment more in integration tests, which is the API integration test, which brings the modules together. Our investment there is low, like we call it karate test. That suite can definitely increase a lot more and reduce end-to-end tests. Right now, our main focus has been a lot more end-to-end tests. But one of the things I'm doing a talk tomorrow about is bringing more customer library-centric testing, which is really with customer data set and customer workflows. That workflows is what I really want to call end-to-end tests. And that will become rewriting or whatever I want to say, updating our existing test arsenal that is like 5,000 tests into some sort of smaller chunk, maybe bring it down to 1,000 to 2,000 actual, library use cases, which is, kind of like a user journeys, and we want to automate those user journeys as a end-to-end test, for the future. So there's a lot of scope here, a lot of things to do, but this is what we have defined right now, and I'm just going over just on the automation side of it. Sorry, Mark, go ahead.
Could you talk about the use of AI in test creation?
Oh, we did, yeah. So actually earlier, let's see, where am I? September. Yeah. So earlier in the year, like in January, February, we did an experiment with AI through EPAM. What we did was we exported all these test cases from Crestwheel into an AI tool where we were very successful to be able to generate preconditions and after conditions. But when it came to the test itself, the code was generating about 10%. So we felt like the technology is not there yet, but we're looking into all those sort of tools and things where we can take this and I'm going to go back to sorry, what's your name?
Yes.
Jens, what he was saying, if the test code or the test was written in a way, that AI technology can understand and generate the Cypress code from it, we're looking all around that as well. But we were, about 10% successful, but in preconditions and, after blocks, cleanup blocks, etc., we were 100% successful, which is a great thing. So we're not there yet, but hopefully in the future, we could probably run through some sort of AI engine, take all these test trail, generate a code, and then massage the code. That's another way to do it, as well. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
To be honest, using those preconditions and after conditions as scaffolds sounds like a very good starting point.
It is.
If you want to train it with your current code base, like train the current test cases with the test base cases with your current end-to-end code, and then basically use the model to recreate them the same way instead of using. I understand you as you use the commercially available language.
Yeah, so EPAM had its own internal tool, that they were trying through it. I forgot the name of the tool right now, but it wasn't. We kind of did a POC with it. We just felt that the technology wasn't there yet. That's why we kind of stepped back on that. But yes, you're right. Even generating a stub of that test case, having a full block of Cypress code and then just filling in all the interactors code and all the test steps itself, by a user is still very useful.
One of the early slides was showing the tech stack. I didn't see Selenium mentioned. Is Cypress using Selenium under the hood for?
That's a good question. I didn't think we used that, but I think Astap, are you still there online?
Yes, I'm still here.
Do we use Selenium? I don't think we use Selenium, right? We use
No, we
WebPark.
don't. We don't. We use Cypress. Yeah, Cypress. It's
Cypress, yeah.
alternative tool.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. I'm telling that Cypress it's alternative tool. They are implemented in different way. Selenium, it's like separate tools that click on browser, and Cypress execute test inside of a browser. These are different technologies.
To do that?
Yeah.
Yes.
So if a developer, say in a country where Firefox was used more often and wanted to develop some resources, could they point at a Firefox headlist and see how bad our tests pass or don't pass?
You could, but we only testing Chrome right now, but yes, you could.
I know the official Folio policy is, in theory, it should work in all browsers, we only test Chrome.
Right.
I'm just saying, if,
But it's
if
doable,
someone
yes.
wanted to do it, change the word Chrome to the word Firefox and.
Yeah, I don't know how the existing test will behave, but Cypress definitely works with, Firefox, and you could definitely write, towards Firefox.
Right. Or Safari. or whatever.
Yeah. Zach, you had a question?
No, this is it, like Selenium, I think, I was explaining already, Selenium has a different approach to sort of
Yeah.
your automation and, what we get here is one that's a lot faster and more efficient,
Selenium is very slow. My experience for Selenium, 1,000 text, about 1,000 roughly tests. Of course, you can't compare, how many steps and, there's quite a bit on previous applications. Used to take us like 24 to 36 hours to run 1,000 tests.
Okay. Yeah, like I said, one automates the browser and one runs within.
Yeah, exactly. Cypress fast.
Cypress is vastly superior from an efficiency point of view.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and another comment that may be useful to those who self-host. So these set of tests cover caching, bugs, regression, mistakes, right? But separately, we've developed a suite of tests to verify our deployment. Okay, so you do deployment from one environment to another, or you do deployment to production, and then we run a dash of tests using Cypress.
Yeah, and those batch of tests is basically all around, we, poke around all the endpoints, that deployments work. All the modules are there, that's why we don't go through functional aspects of the whole application. That's why they're very fast, they run for half an hour. So when our hosting team creates an environment, we run a set of these tests, make sure the deployment's good. Good point.
I think you mentioned briefly earlier, creating for the manual team that makes the test, some kind of reporting software that they can type in their pre-generated, but then report themselves. Very similar to, I think Cypress has a studio tool. That's very similar. Do you think that'll help bridge the gap between the automation team and the manual team?
It's possible, but that's all Cypress native, and it's not, my experience is that works 50 to 60% of the time. So it's still quite a bit, overhead, but we have, like what Ustav explained, we have this page object models, and we want to use this interactor layers and stuff to make it easier and make it more readable. Cypress native code will look like CI dot this, CI this, everywhere. It won't be readable, etc. But that's one possibility for sure. But rather we take that generative and run through some engine, and it translates to a page object model, uses those functions, and then basically generate the code. That's another possibility of it. There are other tools out there, like, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Test Complete. Test Complete does the whole process itself. But again, a lot of brittle tests, come out of it, because it just, uses sometimes even uses, screen pointers, pixels and things like that, and that's not very useful. I haven't found any industry tool that works like 100% confident in that area.
Yeah, Cypress framework is only UI testing basically. How much end-to-end testing, or how is end-to-end testing done for the APIs?
So that's our karate test. So it's all our interaction tests. They're basically called our integration. I think we have around 400 karate tests. Those are developer-owned tests right now.
So I'd also say like the Cypress stuff is end-to-end testing.
Yeah.
Like you're automating the browser, but you are creating, an instance of holding an item record, and then you're creating the user.
Yeah, it's a full end-to-end.
Granting permission, and then you're going to, check out and checking that out. You are testing inventory, you're testing users, you're testing circulation, you're testing circulation policies. So you might be automating the browser, but that test is hitting
Everything.
fully end to end.
Yep.
Right? So it's both those things. And, as you said, there's karate tests that are just looking at, okay, I'm just gonna use an API request to, here's a user barcode, and here's an item barcode, and, here's a circulation policy ID, and just do that at the API level. We also have stuff at the user level that is, just making sure the button looks the way it's supposed to, or is clickable, or we do also have, UI tests that run without a backend, but make sure that the page renders the way you expect given certain inputs.
I'm just asking because there are a few API endpoints that have no UI components. And that's why I was asking for internet testing for those, basically, like mod import. Mod import has no UI components, as far as I know. What users import?
Again, I'd say it depends, like, to go to that checkout example, the UI is gonna make a single request to, to charge an item, right? Say, here's a user barcode, here's an item barcode, here's your policy ID. That's one API request, but behind the scenes, there's like 48 API requests or something that go on to check out an item. So it might be that in one of those modules that on circulation is calling, you're gonna hit that endpoint that's never exposed to the UI. It is part of that process, and so, like I said, not necessarily part of the public API, but is something that does end up tested via a Cypress test or via an API request.
Yeah, but mod users import is a dedicated API for all users import that explicitly goes around all the other APIs, so that what I know should have no other direction.
Yeah, so for some things like that, we basically kind of cover in our provider test. And we, as part of our definition of done, we require both product test and automation test.
Right, and I think there's provider tests for edge APIs too.
Yeah, there is.
So it's
Yeah.
the same thing. There
Yeah,
are
it's all
certain
the same
tests that are designed, I think, for the kind of thing we described.
Okay, I think time's good, so
Yeah, another thing to add, so far we talked about functional testing, right? But then there is a separate team that only focuses on performance testing.
yeah.
And so after after we have a release candidates, for example, we will perform a bunch of load tests, longevity tests.
Yeah, so they take certain workflows and really do exercise them to the heck out of them, basically thousands of users, virtual users creation, having enough load, etc. So there is a set of performance team that does, like check in, check out is one of the biggest example that they do, throw in a lot of users and a large data set behind the scene to make sure it doesn't regress. So their goal is, keeping the timing same release over release, or better, in some cases. Good point, yep.
And then finally, I'm mentioning this into the talk, right? So the idea is that, or maybe in the future WOLFcon sessions, we should have a separate testing track.
Yeah.
Because there's also security testing
Right.
that is happening. And so that is as important as everything else. And, we do want to do code scans, and we do want to identify new vulnerabilities, and we do want to fix them as quickly as possible.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, this was purely on automation, so I didn't cover those topics, but yes.
Yeah.
I think Zach was talking about accessibility in the session earlier.
Yeah, that's also part of
it.
Yeah, some pieces of it are.
Great.
Okay, if not any other questions, I don't want to hold you guys more time. But it's 3 o'clock.
That's right.
20 more minutes? Sure. Any more questions?